Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome E.M. Cirque performing two songs from Dragon Visits by Nina Kariki Hoffman, featured in Writers of the Future Volume 42, and a performance depicting the characters from this year's cover art by Ciduelo and story by Orson Scott Card. Welcome to the 42nd anniversary of the L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers and Illustrators of the Future. And for our thousands of internet viewers worldwide, we have gathered this evening in the restaurant at the end of the universe, the Taglin Complex in Hollywood, California.
The L. Ron Hubbard Writers and Illustrators of the Future contests have left a tremendous mark on the science fiction and fantasy field.
Both contests have been discovering and providing a platform for both writers and illustrators for 4 decades.
It's impossible to measure the impact these contests have had on the field.
In the early days of the contest, in the mid-'80s, the workshop was held at a remote hotel at the end of Sag Harbor. It was Aldous Budrus and Orson Scott Card and myself teaching. And then from that remote, wind-blown place where we had the workshop, the actual event happened in New York City in Manhattan. And the array of important people attending and celebrating it was simply dazzling.
I remember the first time that I came to the workshop and illustrators began piling out of the elevator. We started reviewing the portfolios. It was Kelly Freas, Paul Lear, and Ron and I, and we just had a wonderful time. We enjoyed looking at the artwork. And then we got Bob Eggleton, Ben DeFate, Larry Elmore, and more illustrators became popular and famous as the time grew by, from last century to this century.
When somebody wins the contest, it's a really big deal. They get flown out to Hollywood for a week-long workshop. They spend time networking with each other and hanging out and learning from some of the biggest names in the writing and the illustrating field.
In addition to studying very helpful essays that L. Ron Hubbard wrote, the winners are sent out on the street to meet and get into a conversation with a stranger as unpredictable random input. They're also given a random object. It might be a nail, a penny, an ice cube, which they will use as springboards associated with the stranger they met in order to write a story from nothing. The stories they write in 24 hours. Which might seem like simply an exercise, but we tell them, no, Hubbard insisted that you can do this. And in proof of that, every year, at least half of the 24-hour stories that they write do later get revised and professionally published.
The gala is like the Oscars. You dress up fancy in a bow tie, in a tuxedo, and the gals are all dressed up with the hairdos and the nice dresses. It's a big deal.
Their story gets published and their artwork gets published, and they have this gala book signing event, which is like the snazziest book signing that they're ever going to do. It's amazing the track record this contest has. That so many of the new writer winners and the new illustrator winners get their first moment in the sun.
Please welcome the Executive Director of Author Services, representing the literary works of L. Ron Hubbard, and the Mistress of Ceremonies tonight's festivities, Ms. Gunhild Jacobs.
Thank you very much. Good evening. and welcome to the 42nd Annual L. Ron Hubbard Achievement Awards for Writers and Illustrators of the Future. Tonight we celebrate 42 years of discovering and nurturing new talent in science fiction and fantasy. Now, for those of you who enjoy science fiction, the number 42 may sound familiar. In The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, we are told that 42 is the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. But this evening, we celebrate something far more important than the answer. We celebrate the source of it, imagination. The imagination of writers who create worlds that have never existed before, and the imagination of artists who bring those worlds to life. Our journey began more than 4 decades ago with a powerful conviction held by L. Ron Hubbard that a culture flourishes only when its artists are discovered, encouraged, and given the chance to create. He started the contest with a simple vision that somewhere in the world were writers and artists with talent who simply needed the opportunity to be seen. So he created a pathway through contests judged by leading professionals in science fiction and fantasy, judges who recognize new talent and help guide novice writers and illustrators into the fields. And every one of the winners began in the same place, with an idea, a story, a spark of imagination, and a place to go, writers and illustrators of the future. Past winners have gone on to become New York Times bestselling authors such as Karen Joy Fowler, Patrick Rothfuss, Elizabeth Wayne, Sean Williams, David Farland, Nancy Farmer, Eric Flint, and Nnedi Okorafor. Writers whose work reaches readers all over the world. On the illustration side, the contest has launched artists like Academy Award winner Sean Tan, along with Omar Ryan, B. Jackson, Kirby Fagan, Artem Mirilovich, Dwayne Harris, and Nate Taylor, whose memorable artwork circulates throughout our culture. And the success stories continue. Just this past year alone, here's but a fraction of accomplishments by former winners. Ken Liu and Nnedi Okorafor were included in Time Magazine's top 100 must-read books of 2025. Australian contest winner T.R. Napper received both a Dietmar Award and an Aurealis Award. Nancy Farmer's celebrated novel, The Ear, the Eye, and the Arm, was acquired for animated feature film development. Illustrator Arthur Hayward's murals have been featured at galleries, schools, and museums from Pennsylvania to Paris, France. And Stephen Kotovich won an Aurora Award as editor for the Year's Best Canadian Fantasy and Science Fiction, Volume 2. And our judges continue to shape the field as well. Here are just a few of their accomplishments since last year. Writers of the Future judges Kevin J. Anderson and Brian Herbert saw their work adapted into the HBO series Dune Prophecy, which received 4 Emmy nominations. This is in addition to the 2 blockbuster Dune films, with a 3rd one on the way. Illustrators of the Future judge Brian Hales opened Draw It With Me Art Academy in Alpine, Utah, with over 200 students. Nnedi Okorafor just received the NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Literary Work and the Libby Book Award for her novel Death of the Author, which has also been announced as a finalist for the LA Times Book Prize and a Nebula Award. Craig Elliott was the production designer on Marvel's Eyes of Wakanda animated series, and Hugh Howey's Wool universe continues to reach new audiences through the hit television series Silo, which completed filming seasons 3 and 4 for Apple+. And tonight you will also see rare video footage of Mr. Science Fiction himself, hear from the first Norwegian astronaut as she shares her amazing story, see a special presentation signifying a monumental achievement in the history of the 2 contests. But before we begin the celebration of this year's winners, I would like to acknowledge the exceptional individuals who make this contest possible every year, our judges. These are the writers and artists whose work has helped shape modern science fiction and fantasy, and who now also devote their time to discovering the voices that will define its future. Would all of our esteemed judges who are with us tonight please stand to be acknowledged? Thank you. You are the backbone of these contests, and we are greatly grateful for everything you do. And now, as we begin the celebration of the newest group of winners, it is my pleasure to introduce the president of Galaxy Press, who will release the newest volume in this long-running and celebrated series. Please welcome Mr. John Goodwin.
Thank you. Tonight we gather once again to celebrate another year of literary and artistic achievement. For more than 4 decades, this contest has discovered and published the best of the best in the genres of science fiction and fantasy. And tonight, it gives me considerable pleasure to unveil L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future, Volume 42. Illustrators of the Future contest judge Ciarello created the cover and titled it The Fire Tribe, with the central theme of fire. Accompanying this visual masterpiece is Orson Scott Card's Skinny Shins. Of it, he simply said, "I'm honored. I'm happy that I wrote a story to attach to that art. I feel every bit as excited as you new authors at my chance to be in this wonderful new volume." The second bonus story in the anthology is Dragon Visits by Nina Kriki Hoffman, illustrated by 2023 Illustrators of the Future winner, April Solomon. And it served as the inspiration for tonight's opening musical performance. The third bonus story is L. Ron Hubbard's Space Can, a classic example of Golden Age military science fiction and illustrated by 2025 Illustrators of the Future winner, Haley Enriquez. Each annual anthology offers something for every reader of science fiction and fantasy, including a full-color art gallery up front of the illustrations done by the winners. It's also a guide for aspiring writers and artists, showcasing the caliber of storytelling that captures the judge's attention. In this volume, you will find additional hard-won advice in the form of educational essays on this business of writing and art. Collaboration by Writers of the Future Judge Larry Niven, advice provided by one of the most celebrated authors of best-selling collaboration stories. The Creator's Journey by Illustrators of the Future Judge Brian C. Hales talks about the transformative process shaping us into creators. And Artistic Presentation by L. Ron Hubbard reveals a key ingredient as to what makes the true professional artist, be it writing or illustrating. This year, I'm very excited to announce that two-time Grammy Award-winning audiobook producer Stefan Rudnicki took on the project of producing the audiobook edition along with an outstanding cast of narrators. The book releases April 28th in stores throughout the United States and Canada, along with the audiobook through digital outlets. In Australia, the UK, and South Africa, and online in New Zealand and throughout Asia, Europe, Central, and South America, it releases on May 26th. And for those of you here tonight, you will be able to get your printed copies and get them signed by all these writer and illustrator winners. In closing, as we turn the first pages of L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future, Volume 42, let me remind you that the stories and illustrations held within represent the emerging voices of a better tomorrow. I'd like to end with this from L. Ron Hubbard from his interview with the Rocky Mountain News given after publication of Battlefield Earth when asked about the role of science fiction in the genre's golden age. History has proven that they, science fiction writers, were the ones who brought about the future. So, here's to that bright future you will help create. Thank you.
And now, on to the awards. Each quarter, entrants from around the world submit their stories and illustrations to the contest, where the coordinating judges select honorable mentions, silver honorable mentions, semi-finalists, and finalists. Our blue ribbon panel of judges then narrows them down to the winners, 3 writers and 3 illustrators. And since it is a quarterly contest, the process repeats every 3 months. At the end of the year, a second phase of the illustrator contest begins. We commission each of the winning artists to illustrate a winning story with a 30-day deadline. This is done under the art direction of contest coordinating judge Echo Chernick. These are the illustrations that are judged for the grand prize and published alongside the winning stories in the annual anthology. And with the writer contest, only the quarterly first-place winners compete for the grand prize. While all the winners get prestigious awards, only 1 writer and 1 illustrator will receive the L. Ron Hubbard Golden Pen and Golden Brush Awards, a moment that can change everything in someone's life. And so, to present our first awardees, please welcome Writers of the Future Judge Nancy Kress and Illustrators of the Future Judge Craig Elliott.
Writer Kathleen Powell from Springfield, Missouri, has been entering the Writers of the Future contest for several years, earning 18 certificates ranging from honorable mentions to finalist. Today, she is a winner. Her story, Saffron and Marigolds, blends magical folklore with the real world. A mild-mannered baker finds himself caring for a giant, cheese-loving dragon. The baker must challenge the fairy king of the underworld in a story of love and transformation.
The illustrator of Saffron and Marigolds is Bafu. He hails from a small town in Slovakia and is currently studying art and design at the Faculty of Fine Arts in the Czech Republic. This is his first time in the United States. He creates illustrations and comics filled with humor and emotion and a touch of the strange, hoping to make people smile, think, and drift away from reality, even if just for a moment. Please join us in congratulating them both.
Thank you very much to Nancy Kress and to all the judges at Writers of the Future, and to the invisible army of staff at Writers of the Future and Galaxy Press, who put on this event and make this anthology not just once, but year after year after year. Thanks is also due to L. Ron Hubbard, without whom this contest would never exist. I'm also very grateful to the late David Farland, who I never had the opportunity to meet, but who read many, many, many of my early short story entries. Sorry about that. And without his story doctor tips, I don't believe I would be the same fantasy writer that I am today. Thank you, thank you, thank you to Bafu, you are magnificent, for the illustration for my story. You brought those characters to life with more charm and warmth than I ever imagined was possible, and I love it. Thank you so much. Very last of all, thank you to Mom for being with me through all the acceptances and all the rejections and cheering me on every step of the way.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much. It's truly an honor to be on the stage tonight. I found the competition when I was looking for ways to share my work, to find if it's got potential, and figured I have nothing to lose. Then later, I got the phone call from Joni, and I could not believe it. And standing right now on this stage, I still can't truly believe it. I come from a small country called Slovakia in Central Europe, and I have never traveled so far away. So it was kind of surreal, but amazing nonetheless. I have to say, I had one of the most fulfilling, inspiring, and great weeks of my life. I would like to express my gratitude, of course, to L. Ron Hubbard for creating this contest that invests in artists, to everyone at Writers of the Future staff who took care of us, and big thanks to the judges for teaching us this whole week. I will be forever grateful for this opportunity. You've been nothing but kind. Also, big thanks to my writer for her wonderful story I got to illustrate that I knew I was going to like just from the first few sentences. And my biggest thanks goes to my family, to my parents, for everything, and for supporting me in my drawing habit. The same can be said about my uncle. I'm grateful that you, with my dad, even when you see me often at home, came all the way to see me stand here, in tuxedo. I hope it's worth it. So, ďakujem. And big thanks again to everyone. I will forever cherish this memory.
Please welcome Writers of the Future Judge Tim Powers and Illustrators of the Future Judge Rob Pryor.
Thomas K. Slee is joining us all the way from Melbourne, Australia, where he grew up reading pulp science fiction, adventure, and intrigue stories, which strikes me as the perfect preparation. His winning entry for Writers of the Future was Form 14B, Application for Certification of Consciousness Transfer Post-Mortem. It's about a character named Cameron who is dead, but his attorney convinces him that this is not the end of the world and that he can reliably be transferred into a new body if he'll simply sign a certain form, for better or worse. S.J. Stevenson is joining us from the United Kingdom, and when not writing science fiction and fantasy stories, he can be found having lightsaber battles with his son. Again, probably good preparation. He wrote a clever science fiction story called The Triceratops Effect, which manages to be both touching and funny. It's about a time agent who is given the job of faking the asteroid strike that destroyed the dinosaurs, and he decides to risk paradox and punishment by saving the last Triceratops.
Amazing.
Yeah, how can it lose?
I'm just saying. Emily, don't worry, I'm not going to go too far off everything. I wanted to say, all you illustrators this year, you're all fantastic. You blew me away during the portfolio reviews. Thank you for listening to whatever advice I could, and I also get to share the stage with the esteemed Tim Powers. Oh, my God.
And likewise.
Why, thank you, sir. Art Haikuda is a Vancouver, Canadian-based artist. He creates paintings that center on the narrative built around character. He loves to fill his paintings with lots of details, and that's evident with the two pieces he created for this year's anthology. When one of the winners for this year had to bow out before completing the final illustration and called back to Venezuela by his family, Art stepped in and did the final piece. And while I love a good dinosaur, it's written there. While I love a good dinosaur, I am equally impressed in how he illustrates a story about someone who does not physically exist. So please, welcome to the stage, Thomas K. Slee, S.J. Stevenson, and Art Haikuda.
G'day everyone. There's a lot of people to thank, so I thought I should probably start at the beginning. And so that means I've got to better thank my mum and dad for surrounding me with so many great books. I did write a little bit when I was a kid, but then university and work got in the way. So I find myself needing to thank my mum and dad again for joining me in a writing group during COVID. I should also thank the other members of my COVID group, my girlfriend Caitlin's dad, my brother, and my cousin Alison. Without them, I wouldn't be here. Onto the story. I need to thank Chris McKittrick and his wonderful science into fiction workshops run out of Kansas. It was in those workshops that the spark for this story came to be. And I also need to thank my current writing group in Melbourne, Meridian Australis. You should check out our award-winning anthology, Austral 2025. That's a plug. But they're the ones who told me that the ending sucked and I needed to fix it. And so that brings me to the contest. I want to thank everyone who works in front of the camera and behind the scenes to pull this all together every year. It's a crazy amount of work. I want to thank the Hubbard estate for paying for it all. And I want to thank all of the judges who come and donate their time and force feed us their wisdom. It was a lot, and we'll be processing it for the rest of our careers. I want to thank and congratulate all of my fellow winners. It's been wonderful to spend a week with you all, and I'm really excited to see what you all do next. I want to thank Art, who did an incredible job bringing my story to life through his artwork, and I'm amazed that he made paperwork seem foreboding. And last but not least, I want to thank my girlfriend Caitlin, who I want to thank you for trusting me enough to tell me what you really think about my writing, and I love you very much.
I'm sure this is the moment where my mind will go completely blank, so please do bear with me for a moment. If I was going to talk about my experiences of starting to be a writer, I'd have to start calling it something like blind alleys and tripwires. So this has been an incredible experience just to start to learn that perseverance really can, in the end, kind of bring you through. So many people to thank for that to be possible, so thank you in advance for your patience. I would like to start with thanks to the L. Ron Hubbard estate. Obviously, without that, this incredible competition with all the opportunities that it comes with simply wouldn't be here. It's been absolutely magnificent. Obviously, though, it's all the people who've succeeded within this, who've succeeded that legacy in kind of Galaxy Press and Author Services, who continue to make this possible. The amount of work that's gone into this just absolutely blows my mind. So huge thanks for that, but also for looking after us and look after us so kindly all the way through this week. I'd like to thank, too, all the tutors and industry professionals, the anecdotes, the insight, the writing tips, and also just all the stuff about marketing books and all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that I was completely oblivious to. You cannot put a price on how valuable that is. It's been absolutely incredible, and I'm so incredibly grateful. Thanks, obviously, for Art. Obviously, absolutely the best example of nominative determinism I've ever come across. You took an image that existed in my head and you brought it to life so beautifully. I'm just kind of blown away. There are tiny little details in that picture, which, given the fact it's a time travel story, I would really like to go back in time and just add in there just a little bit to note it. Thanks also to the other winners. I'd obviously grown up on science fiction and fantasy. I used to think adventure was all about spaceships crashing and robots shooting laser bolts out of their armpits. But you have reminded me yet again that actually adventures are the people you share the journey with, so huge thanks to you. And last, of course, all the people in my family. Mum and Dad, you always encouraged me from an early age. You read examples of stories that, frankly, were pretty awful. Dad, I still miss you, in particular, every day for all the advice and help you used to give. I'd like to thank my kids, Soph and Ben. You're growing up to amazing people. I'm missing you terribly. But I'd also like to thank my in-laws, Ped and Yol, who kindly cancelled their own holiday in order to look after them, in order that my wife could come and join me today. To echo the Beatles, Kath, you were just 17 when I first saw you standing there. And all these years and decades later, I've never looked back, accepted all the happy memories. So thank you very much for that. Thank you. I love you very, very much. I also love how the fact you actually do give a little bit of consideration and let me tinker away at the laptop when I'm sure it probably is my turn to empty the dishwasher. So, thank you very much, everybody.
Wow.
This is incredible. I just want to start by saying thanks to all the staff at the Writers of the Future contest. You guys are amazing, make this whole week run so smooth, and it's incredible. I'd also like to thank my two writers. It was an absolute honor getting to illustrate 2 stories. That was kind of a surprise when that second one came in. And then, of course, I'd like to thank my parents. I know you guys were a little worried when I got into art and didn't see eye to eye on everything, but I hope maybe you're a little less worried now. I'd like to say thanks to all my friends. You guys always helped push me to better heights, helped me kind of pursue my craft in such a way that I can continue to pursue it and continue to do so in the long run. And I hope to continue to impart anything and everything I've learned to all the friends that I make in the future, like the ones I've made this week. You guys are amazing. And lastly, I'd like to thank my wife. You're my #1 fan. You've always been there supporting me, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Tonight's celebration would not exist without the vision of the man who created and founded these contests, L. Ron Hubbard. As he himself stated, he was first and foremost a writer. And beginning in the 1930s, he became one of the most widely published authors of the pulp magazine era, writing adventure, aviation, mystery, westerns, and eventually science fiction and fantasy. His stories appeared in the leading magazines of the day and were published around the world. But Ron never believed writing should belong only to established professionals. Throughout his life, he took a special interest in encouraging new writers and artists, people with imagination and talent who simply needed the opportunity to be seen. In fact, as early as 1940, while on an expedition to Alaska, he organized and personally funded a writing competition for amateur authors called the Golden Pen Award. More than 4 decades later, he expanded that idea on an international scale with the creation of the Writers of the Future contest, followed a few years later by Illustrators of the Future. His purpose was simple: to discover new talent, to give aspiring creators a professional platform, and to help ensure that the future of speculative fiction would always include new voices and new visions. As L. Ron Hubbard once stated, because the artist deals in future realities, he always seeks improvements or changes in the existing reality. The artist, day by day, by postulating the new realities of the future, accomplishes peaceful revolution. And the postulate that imagination can reshape the future lies at the very heart of these contests. To glimpse the world in which those ideas first took hold, we turn to one of the great figures of science fiction's golden age, Forrest J. Ackerman. Known to fans around the world simply as Forry, he was a pioneering literary agent, editor, historian, and lifelong champion of science fiction. He represented many of the leading writers of the era and helped bring their stories to readers across the globe. He was also there when a writer named L. Ron Hubbard first entered the science fiction field. In this rare interview, Ackerman recalls meeting Ron in Hollywood and experiencing firsthand the profound storytelling ability that made him one of the most popular authors of the time. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Sci-Fi himself, Forry Ackerman.
When I was 9 years old, I was standing at the corner of Santa Monica and Western, and a magazine called Amazing Stories, October 1926, jumped off the newsstand, grabbed hold of me, and probably all the viewers are too young to know, but in those days, magazines spoke. And this one said, "Take me home, little boy, you will love me." Well, after about 10 years or so, we began to have a new generation of youngsters like myself who had been reading it from the age of 10 or 12 or 14. And now they were in their 20s, and they began to write science fiction. So I became a literary representative because I decided I never wanted to have a boss, and I decided that the world had prepared me to be a literary agent, particularly specializing in science fiction. And I recall the first year that I hung out my shingle, A.E. Van Vogt, who didn't have an agent, he came along, and I became his literary representative. And during that time, there was a little secondhand magazine and bookshop. It was run by a good old gal with a boozy red nose. We all called her Shep. And as I was about to sign out one evening with the purchase of magazines, there was a very dramatic-looking, dynamic young chap ahead of me, and he was having a conversation with her, and I couldn't help hearing how he was saying that ever since about 1931 he'd been selling his fiction to Western magazines and Air magazines and Legionnaire and Romance, and I was waiting for the magic word, science fiction. I didn't hear any mention of science fiction, so I spoke up. I said, "Excuse me, sir, did you ever write any science fiction?" And right on the spur of the moment, spontaneously, L. Ron Hubbard said, "Well, no, but you know, 35,000 years from now, there could be a new ice age here in Southern California," and he was off and running and spinning his whole first science fiction story right there on the spot. Well, I lost track of him for a year or two, and I was a subscriber to Astounding Science Fiction and Unknown Worlds, its companion. And first thing I knew, here was the byline of L. Ron Hubbard. And so I avidly read all his stories. Met him from time to time during the ensuing years. We have a science fiction club here in Los Angeles. And I vividly remember one evening that he was the guest of honor at the club, and was one of the most overwhelming we'd ever had. In the past, we'd had Edward E. Smith, the Skylark of space fame, and Edmund Hamilton, and Henry Kuttner and Catherine Moore. But I don't recall ever a more dramatic evening than when Ron was there. He just had everybody in the palm of his hand. And I guess it must have been just around that time that Ron, who had been selling on his own prior to that, decided the time had come to have an agent. And so, of course, I was very interested in getting every possible piece of his work into print. So when I took him over, the next thing we knew, he was appearing in Italy and France and Germany and over in England and so on. And he never seemed to run out of interesting tales to tell, because the way Ron wrote, he would sort of look at a blank wall and project some action, and his fingers would fly while he would watch sort of a motion picture that was coming out of his mind. Well, after he mastered the ordinary typing design, he heard that the Navy had rearranged the letters, and they gave you about 25% more facility. After he mastered the Navy keyboard, he created one all his own, which nobody on earth, including me, although I acquired it at one time, and I wish to heaven I knew I don't remember what became of it, but here was a typewriter where his fingers could just fly over it faster than anybody on earth. And at the end of 2 days, he had a manuscript, and everyone was a winner, because you felt when he got through with the story that you'd read more than fiction. Across the years, I think Ron had quite an influence on a number of authors. For instance, he created Old Doc Methuselah and had a series there. And the next thing you knew, other authors would pick up on the notion of the continuing series, create a character, and every few months have a new adventure from them. So that was something that I recall of Ron being at the forefront of. Well, 1,500 years down the road, as long as the world is still interested, grasped by a story with human beings in unusual circumstances, people with an adventurous, futuristic, fantastic turn of mind will be reading Ron Hubbard.
Please welcome Writers of the Future Judge Orson Card and Illustrators of the Future Judge Ciduelo.
I hear frequently from new writers, I don't want to say young because they're not all young, but writers who have yet to be published, how frustrating it is to turn their stories into editors and get them back without any idea of why that story didn't work. I said, where's the feedback? We need feedback. Well, guess what, folks? Tonight, this is feedback. Now, hailing from a small town in Ohio, Thomas R. Eggenberger now lives in Japan, where he writes unconventional fantasy and science fiction stories. In his story, A Ready-Made Bubble of Light, Seb has spent his career stopping time to save people from deadly disasters. The story began with a simple curiosity. What would it look like if you could actually stop time, and not just people? Or how about bubbles of stopped time, and bubbles where time is running? You'll need to read the story to find out how he made that work.
The illustrator of this story is Alan Zhang. He was born in China, where he studied traditional Chinese painting and calligraphy. But it was when he discovered concept art for games and film when something clicked. He now builds worlds, shapes characters, and creates atmospheres following the path of concept design. He's committed to turning imagination into vivid images and meaningful stories. Please congratulate them both.
My writing journey is thousands of lattes long. It spans more than 30 years and stretches from Ohio to Virginia to Chicago to Tokyo to Nice and back to Tokyo. Or, as we say in the writing world, overnight success. My winning entry was an edited resubmission and a desperate final heave to find a home for a story I believed in. I'll always remember the shock and excitement of hearing from Joni that I'd won and my story would be published in the anthology. My wife shed tears of joy after having watched the rejections pile up over the years. So to all the other writers out there still fighting the good fight, keep at it. We can never know which story, which submission, which edit will finally move us to the top of the pile. My heart is with you. I'd like to thank, first of all the people at ASI and Writers of the Future, including the judges, for their kindness and all their efforts this week, and for continuing to provide a springboard for aspiring writers and artists. Jody, Tim, and all the guest speakers during this amazing week. Alan, the artist for my story, for creating such an amazing illustration. my lovely wife Kiyomi, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but she's watching, for giving me the space and support to pursue my dreams. My mom, who unfortunately passed away before she could read the winning story, but I'm sure she would have loved it, for reading to me when I was young and always cheering me on. My sister Christina, for coming out to Hollywood to support me. Thank you. Bob for his companionship, Ian Martin for reading whatever I throw at him. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to thank the fantastic community of writer winners gathered here. Having lived in non-English speaking countries for the past 25 years, while stubbornly continuing to write in English, it's been amazing to finally have a sense of community and shared struggle this week. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. So first, I want to say thanks to the founder, Mr. L. Ron Hubbard. Thank you for this amazing award. Thank you. Thank you. Also, I want to say thanks to the author, Thomas. I illustrated his story. It's such a cool story. I'm so appreciative for that. Thank you. Yeah, I had so much fun for it. And a big thanks to Johnny, trying to keep reaching me out until we connected. Finally, I realized it's not a scam. Thank you so much. Yeah. Also, big thank you to my mom and dad. Thank you for always supporting me and love my art. And I want to thank my girlfriend, Menghan, for her unconditional support during my hardest time. So she shared an apartment with me. I don't need to sleep under the bridge. Thank you so much. Yeah. This award is one of the best things that has ever happened to me. It makes me realize choosing a study in US 5 years ago was the right decision. Finally, thank you for all bringing all together. It feels like home here. Thank you. I will keep doing more. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
And now, please welcome Writers of the Future Judge Nina Kariki Hoffman and Illustrators of the Future Coordinating Judge Echo Chernik.
Alina Kumra lives in the California Bay Area. She wrote the story Bloom Decay about a surveillance architect who discovers a street artist the algorithm can't predict, and small rebellions begin accumulating towards something the system is already too late to stop. Her story was inspired by a conversation with her grandmother about birds, and she decided to write about what happens when the watched become the watchers.
Trey Streeter grew up in Syracuse, Utah, where he spent much of his childhood drawing and painting, especially portraiture. Currently studying at Weber State University, Trey has turned his attention to sci-fi and fantasy art, a genre that offers him the freedom to create art that exists beyond reality. Alina could not be here with us tonight. Please welcome Trey to the stage.
First, I would like to thank Author Services for giving me this amazing opportunity, and my writer, who I have not met yet, but her story gave me the inspiration to, make this illustration. And to my family for putting up with me being an artist and supporting me through that. I'd like to thank my friends for entering exhibitions with me and standing with me through everything. And I'd like to thank my fellow winners for making this week so much less of an anxious experience for me. I'd like to thank my high school painting teacher, Greg Batt. Meeting him was the first time that I met a like-minded person in art. And being able to share my love for Caravaggio and Sargent with him was an experience that changed my life. And I'd like to thank my girlfriend Olivia for dealing with my anxious ramblings about going to California by myself. And yeah, but thank you.
To present the next award, please welcome Writers of the Future judges Kevin J. Anderson and Rebecca Mesta.
Man, I can't wait to sit back with a pan-galactic gargle blaster and read this book. Mike Strickland's love of words began with fantasy and science fiction. But after a long hiatus from writing fiction, in 2024, Mike earned a master's degree in creative writing and started submitting his work. He came up with his story, As Long as You Both Shall Live, 2 days before the contest deadline, and wrote the majority of the story on the last day, leaving just over an hour for final edits and submission. What did they teach you in that MFA program, Mike? I don't understand. I'm part of it, so I don't know what's going on there. The story is about a clinical trial that goes wrong, leaving a woman stranded in a virtual reality. And the man who loves her must navigate corporate secrecy to keep their fragile relationship alive.
I just want to share some Hitchhiker's Guide advice. To all the winners tonight, don't panic. The illustrator of the story is Kara Richardson. Growing up, Kara had a fascination with faces due to a condition called prosopagnosia, which is face blindness. She would draw the faces of family and friends over and over with hopes to memorize them. What started as a hobby has turned into a real-life skill. Please welcome them both to the stage.
Good evening. I want to start with some thank yous, of course. First of all, to Author Services and all the judges who've made this amazing week of celebration and learning possible. To L. Ron Hubbard for having the foresight to create this contest in the first place. To Kara for this amazing illustration of my story. Thank you so much for that. And of course, to my lovely wife and daughter for your steadfast support over the years. It seems facetious to be called a writer of the future when I'm turning 60 later this year. But it aligns perfectly with the path that I've walked most of my life, which I can sum up in one cliche: better late than never. After graduating high school, I spent several years being a beach bum, and then I served 4 years in the Navy. And so it took 7 years for me to finally go to college. Better late than never. After going to film school and taking my best shot to break into Hollywood as a screenwriter, I turned my attention to establishing a stable career more than a decade later than my high school peers. Better late than never. I met my wife when I was 40 years old, and we got married 2 years later, and then I became a father at the age of 45. Most definitely better late than never. And then it took me 25 years to realize my day job wasn't fulfilling. So 2 years ago, I decided to focus back on my true passion, storytelling. I earned a master's degree in creative writing. I started publishing short stories, and I won this award. Now, after so many years, I'm finally beginning a career as a published author. Better late than never. So when I publish my first novel, whether it's one of the two I've already written or one I have yet to write, guess what I'll say? Better late than never. Thank you.
I've got to give a special thanks to Author Services for giving me such a wonderful opportunity to meet so many great people as teachers and fellow contestants. I've got to give a special thanks to Mike for writing such a fun story to illustrate and giving me so much inspiration on what to do next. I also have to give a thanks to my family, my mom and dad, who had to deal with paint on the walls when I was little, to paint on the table when I got older, and now paint on the walls again in the form of framed photos. It has brought me so much joy to see all of these people here tonight and see the rest of my family show up, who have also supported me by giving me sketchbooks on Christmas and advice on weekends, and generally just always being there to support and urge me on. And my aunt, who's here today, who actually sent me the link to this competition and told me, submit, try your best. And I did. I would also like to give a special thanks to all the fellow contestants here who have made this trip so much fun. It has been an honor to hang out with you guys and to have conversations with you up till 1 in the morning, and then wake you up at 8 in the morning just as tired and just as excited for the day. And I'd like to give a final thanks to all the friends and everyone that I know who's told me, do your best, keep trying, don't give up, and have fun. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, exploration and imagination have always gone hand in hand. Our keynote speaker tonight embodies both. Jannicke Mikkelsen is Norway's first astronaut. She's also a cinematographer and a published author. Her background and introduction are best told visually, and here it is.
Dragon, SpaceX. Go for launch.
She is Norway's first astronaut and the first cinematographer ever to travel to space. But this journey began long before liftoff. As a child, she dreamed of space.
It's been a crazy dream of mine as far back as I can remember, and then somehow it's now a reality.
A tech-obsessed girl who applied to NASA at the age of 12. Obviously without luck, but not without hope. After a devastating horse riding accident that left her temporarily paralyzed, she fought her way back.
As a kid, I actually spent 5 years learning how to walk again and how to
use my motor skills, like learning to walk, learning to run, learning to jump. And in that time period, I became space obsessed.
Janneke Mikkelsen built a world-class career filming in Earth's most extreme environments, combining advanced technology with high-level filmmaking.
I am that person that you meet in a really remote area carrying a film camera and a really heavy backpack full of camera equipment. That is me.
She has worked with NASA, Netflix, Paramount Pictures, the BBC, and the rock band Queen, collaborating with legends such as Buzz Aldrin, David Attenborough, and Brian May.
I had this crazy idea to fly a VR rig above our audience in Barcelona. Everybody told me it couldn't be done until you came along. And VR the Champions is there for all to see. It's a monument.
Janneke made history when she flew on the Fram 2 space mission, the first ever to orbit over both the North and South Poles.
No humans have ever been in a polar orbit previously.
And that's intriguing to you?
Absolutely.
Today, she will share her story. Please welcome astronaut and cinematographer, Janneke Mikkelsen.
No need to stand. Thank you so much. It is an absolute honor to be here, and especially at the moment when man is again reaching the moon and beyond. I mean, as for my journey, I was with tremendous joy. I also celebrated a safe return to planet Earth after having demonstrated the first ever polar orbit. And to all writers and illustrators who are here with us tonight, I want to thank you. And I want to thank the creators who came before you, because my crew and I would not have gone into space in the Dragon if it were not for the science fiction writers that dreamt up the possibilities that we made fact. With your creativity, grit, and pursuit to broaden humanity's perspective, you've helped us bring us to a place where humanity has come together to build the fiery dragon that I rode to space. The capsule was commanded via a touchscreen. And with myself fitted in a sleek spacesuit, just like the superheroes who I admired as a 4-year-old, during page-turning adventures in faraway lands to space and beyond. Those superheroes inspired me to challenge technology and learn how to speak the language of computers. Now imagine what those touchscreens of today's 4-year-olds will look like when they turn 40. Now, I live in Svalbard, close to the North Pole. A real-life frozen landscape that can rival any sci-fi movie backdrop that I've ever seen. My life's purpose is to broaden humanity's perspective. I built my career to pursue what lies undiscovered. I seek what is out of sight to bring our planet to the front of mind. I am a cinematographer first and an astronaut second. My astronaut training as a vehicle commander prepared me for all eventualities that could happen to me in space. Although, not all goes to plan. Even after intensive training for all scenarios, as you can see here. And what shocked me the most about being out in space was being presented with a planet Earth that did not at all look like the blue planet I had learned about at school. Our polar orbit brought us to the Arctic and Antarctic, resulting in a view of the planet that was mostly white and frozen. From orbit, there are no borders, no familiar reference points, only patterns, textures, and the raw forces that shape our world. It changes your sense of scale and your sense of place. I pointed my camera at land I had never seen before, like the frozen volcano land of Kamchatka in Russia. The Arctic Ocean with open water leads visible from space, making it near impossible for a polar explorer to ski there on foot in pursuit of the North Pole. Svalbard, where I live, a land never before photographed or even seen from space by humans. Countries are difficult to see from space. But one of the easiest landmarks to identify at day and at night is the Nile in Egypt. Technology can truly only be seen at night. Here we see white LED lights on mainland China. Orange tungsten lights identifies Hong Kong. The lights you can see here can be fused with stars in the night sky. However, they are fishing boats. And the many towns of China lit up at night. As for being in space, the sound of silence is profound. The vastness of our universe suddenly becomes very real. And with it, a new perspective of the world we call home. I am, as I said, a cinematographer first. The images you saw are not just moments from a mission. They are part of a larger story. A story about our planet and our place within it. Therefore, I have created for you a short edit, bringing together some of these images you have already seen, bringing our planet to the front of mind. writers, and artists. Your journey of exploration, discovery, and understanding would not be possible if all of you did not tap into the future of what if? L. Ron Hubbard wrote in the introduction of Battlefield Earth, "You have satellites out there. Man has walked on the moon. You have probes going to the planets, don't you? Somebody had to dream the dream. And a lot of somebodies, like those great writers of the Golden Age and later, had to get an awful lot of people interested in it to make it true. Those somebodies are here tonight." You inspire your readers and viewers to dream, and you challenge humanity to discover what we are capable of achieving when we put our minds into action as a team. What was impossible yesterday is being rewritten today, reimagined, challenged by those who refuse to accept the limits of the present. And that brings us all one step closer to the exciting future of possibilities that bring about a better tomorrow. The future you imagine is a future we will all one day explore. Dare to dream, dare to write, and dare to create. Thank you so much.
And now for the next awards presentation, please welcome Writers of the Future Judge Mark Leslie and Illustrators of the Future Judge Brian C. Hales.
Zach Poulter, writer-winner from the potato fields in rural Idaho, now lives in Utah, where he works as a middle school band teacher. When not teaching or playing the saxophone, he writes fantasy and horror. His story, Shell Game, is about a detective that wakes up at a crime scene with blood on his hands. He races to expose the body-hopping entity, using him as a shell before it uses him to strike again. Writer-winner Dorothy DeCock hails from a small village in South Africa. She's an educator, real estate agent, and safe house director. In her story, Thickly, Namsa is desperate to become visible, so she follows a trend promising instant beauty, only to face the horrifying truth that her new, improved self may not leave room for the old one.
Tracy Eyre grew up in Newfoundland, a place with a distinct time zone way up north that, as you can imagine, can get pretty cold. But that magical place with its unique language and icebergs only brought inspiration for her art. Having honed her skills through the Milan Art Mastery program, she specializes in portraits with a preference for charcoal and oils. Tracy is both an artist and storyteller. This year, she illustrated 2 stories in Volume 42. Please welcome all 3 to the stage.
In real life, I am a middle school band director. I teach young people to play music. There's this beautiful moment near the beginning of every school year after the new students have played Mr. Poulter's rhythm counting games and done our breathing exercises where, for the first time, that clarinet is finally put together and with trembling hands and all their new friends watching, a student takes a deep, relaxed breath and brings it to their mouth and makes the most horrible sound you can possibly imagine. And the student is thrilled. They put something out into the universe and people heard it. I love that moment. And I love the moments that follow the years of hard work and monotony and joy and companionship together as we learn to become. That's what tonight feels like. I'm grateful to be here. Thanks to L. Ron Hubbard and his estate for starting and continuing this wonderful endeavor for 42 years and counting. For Author Services and Galaxy Press for the production of a beautiful book that I'm so grateful to be a part of, and for treating us so well throughout this week. Thank you to our marvelous workshop instructors, Jody Lanai and Tin Powers, the dynamic duo who have taught us with tremendous grace and wit and no small measure of patience. If you haven't heard Tim's whistle, you might ask. Thank you to my cohort of writers. It's been wonderful to become your friend and to learn from your savvy ideas and wonderful points of view. Thank you to my mom, who taught me to read and to love reading, and to my dad, who continues to teach me that you never outgrow a love of reading. Thank you to my kids, who I'm endlessly proud of and grateful for. There are too many mentors in writing to mention, but I have to mention a few. I was tremendously blessed to work for a while with the late, great Dave Farland, who gave me much needed encouragement and direction early on my writing journey, and more recently with Brandon Sanderson, who helped me along the path. Thank you also to my agent, Joshua Bilmus, and the Howard working people at Jabberwocky Literary, who are working to take my stories out into the world. Thank you also to my writing group, who reads my first drafts so none of you have to. Last of all, and most of all, and best of all, thank you to Tanya, my wife, who has gone to decades of beginning band concerts and read thousands of pages of rough drafts. And if that's not true love, I don't know what is. Thank you for encouraging me and for making time and for reminding me on those days when the rejections by far outnumber the encouragement that it's not if, but when. Thank you all for your encouragement and help as I make my first little squeaks into this vast universe of speculative fiction. I look forward to much more to come.
I'm very honored and privileged to be here. LA is a long way away from South Africa, and it looks very different here. I especially want to just remember my parents tonight, my late parents. My dad always said, fiction is a total waste of time, it's all lies. And then my mother taught us that it is much better to read a good novel than to fold laundry or do the dishes. So we had a very balanced upbringing. It's been the most amazing week, and I'd really like to thank the L. Ron Hubbard Writers and Illustrators of the Future Contest. Author Services, who are the supermen and superwomen that you will never see, but you will see the result of everything that they do. And to Galaxy Press, you have made this week memorable, and I will never ever forget all the kindness, you just bent over backwards, and there was nothing that was too much trouble, and every one of us absolutely appreciated it. The judges and fellow writers of this week, thank you for all sharing your hearts, your words, your stories, your wisdom. I just feel that you will be part of my life forevermore, And I'm honored and privileged that my story is going to be tucked away with all your stories and advice for a very, very long time, as long as there are books. My illustrator, Tracy, as writers, we try really hard to paint a picture with our words. When I first saw Tracy's illustration, I just burst into tears because I was saddened by what I had done to my character, because I saw it on that image. And Tracy absolutely brought the emotions to life onto the page. And Tracy, you just made Nomsa alive. You made her real. Thank you so much. I just want to thank my sister and my niece for traveling all the way here from South Africa so I wouldn't get lost. It was the first time I'd ever been off the African continent, and there were a lot of people worried about me getting lost in LA. But my daughter went ahead, and her family have immigrated to this beautiful country recently. So thank you, Kaylee, for coming from Texas to also help look after your mother. To my husband and son watching in South Africa, I love you both very, very much. To my husband especially, who has never ever read anything I've written. But he knows every character, every plot twist, every time I change a story. Everything is bounced off him. He knows those stories better than anybody else does. And I love you, and thank you so much for putting up with me all these years. This is a bit of an odd one, but I want to say thank you to Bedford, my hometown, and its people. My story, Thickly, is based in Bedford, and those people in that story are real people. Those, I'll admit, are actually their names too. I didn't think the story was going to. But they have fortunately agreed. They are excited to be in the story, so my lawyer doesn't have to stand in for me. Bedford and people, thank you so much. You provided the magic for the story. Without you, the story would not have existed. And a final thing, just to Dad. They gave me an award for my lies. I love you.
They made me follow the astronaut, Mom. Okay. Okay. So first I'd like to start by saying thank you to the estate of L. Ron Hubbard for this amazing contest you see up here. And all the adventure that it's brought into all of our lives, right? The contest staff have been incredibly generous and kind, as have been the judges and the many inspiring instructors. I can't even begin to name them, but they've been amazing. I want to say, my fellow winners, you have such big, open hearts, and thank you so much for your support and camaraderie. Over the last 2 years, I've tried like 5 times, I think, to win a place in this contest. I've been awarded multiple honorable mentions in both writing and illustration, and now this moment here. It's a testimony to humility, love of craft, and grit. Yeah. I also want to say thank you, Island of Newfoundland, a place that stands apart and is a little bit offbeat. It's a place that still believes that fairies could carry you away and that sometimes that's okay and maybe you should pack for that. Maybe you should go. Congratulations, winners, writers, and especially Dorothy DeCock for Thickly and Zach Poulter for Shell Game. Amazing stories, really changed my life. So I really appreciate your creativity. And believe me, the biggest thank you is to my sister and writing partner, Heidi. When I won, she ran through my entire house screaming with joy, just shrieking. H, really, you're my twin heartbeat, no jokes. And now I get to say on a stage that's like a global stage, best sister ever. I win. Thank you.
Please welcome Writers of the Future Judge Catherine Kurtz and Illustrators of the Future Judge Lazarus Chernik.
Brenda Posey grew up in Huntsville, Alabama, where she can be found tending to her garden, fixing up a mid-century house, I've done that, and plotting short novels and short stories, or staring at the night sky wondering what if. Canary, her story, is about a reclusive Arkansas homesteader who experiences missing time. Her only hope for solving the mystery of a world gone wrong is a boy who shouldn't exist.
The illustrator for Canary is Roddy Taylor, who grew up in the forests of Washington State and the hills of San Diego. Nature, culture, and stories are Roddy's biggest inspiration for his art. With a degree in civil engineering, spending 10 years as a math and physics teacher, Roddy finds endless opportunities to pull from the world and create fantastical illustrations. Let's give them both a big welcome to the stage.
That's nice. I have so many people to give thanks to. I'm going to start with L. Ron Hubbard. He's not here with us, obviously, but he had a vision to create this amazing contest, and I will be forever grateful for it. And even though they've probably heard this, let's see, well over 1,000 times, thank you to all the people at Author Services and Galaxy Press for making this past week a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Thank you so, so much. And a really special thanks to all the judges, the first readers for selecting my story, Canary, and to the editors for helping it take flight. I appreciate that a lot. To my talented illustrator, Roddy, thank you so much for taking the essence of Canary and putting it into a beautiful piece of art. Thank you. A huge shout out to my critique group, the Leaky Pins, Joe and Joan, Debbie and Deanna, and Brenda, not this Brenda, another Brenda. What are the odds of that? And last but definitely not least, to my family, to my husband Joshua. Thank you for your love and for your support. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here. Thank you so much to my son Brian and to my daughter Megan. You have been inspirations to me from day one. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Hello, friends. Hi. What a lovely opportunity this has been. Obviously, thanks to the staff of Writers of the Future contest, amazing people, so welcoming and vibrant. You support an incredible legacy. To our judges, obviously, again, your experience, your fold in white paper, some encouragement, yeah, and help point us in a new path, which is so valuable. And my fellow winners, I did not expect so much joy and excitement, and what a good time we had. So thank you so much for that. Obviously, Brenda. Canary was such an emotional story that it was easy to illustrate. So I found the spot for it real quick. Thank you. Friends and family, Zach, thanks for coming up from San Diego. You've been there a long time, and I appreciate it. My friend Ann back home, who I hope is watching, she made me this nice little... And from family back home, Kyle, my wife, my glowing wife, Kyle, you're incredible. And my son Lachlan is probably in bed already, but I hope you watch this tomorrow. Your imagination keeps my imagination alive. Thank you, everyone.
Please welcome the Vice President, Public Affairs Author Services Incorporated, Ms. Emily Goodwin.
Since their inception, the contests have received entries from 182 countries, and we've had winners from 52. Tonight, we celebrate the 42nd year. And this year, we have reached a milestone. With the release of Volume 42, we are proud to announce that more than 1,000 writers and illustrators have now been published through Writers of the Future. Joining us tonight is a special guest from an organization whose mission closely aligns with that of Writers and Illustrators of the Future. The Independent Book Publishers Association was founded the same year as Writers of the Future, and both organizations have grown and evolved over the past 4 decades. The head of this organization has been a steadfast advocate for independent publishing, with prior leadership roles at HarperCollins, Workman Publishing, and Ingram Content Group. She now leads the IBPA in building a vibrant and thriving publishing community. She is committed to fostering a more diverse and equitable publishing ecosystem and to protecting the freedom to read. To present a special recognition, please welcome the Chief Executive Officer of the Independent Book Publishing Association, Miss Andrea Fleck Nisbet.
Thank you.
I would like to congratulate the Writers and Illustrators of the Future contests for providing a platform to more than 1,000 new voices in our industry. This dedication to discovering and publishing emerging talent reflects the ongoing core values of IBPA, which is committed to authentically serving and supporting those in this industry through advocacy, education, and tools for success. This vision guides the spirit and nature of the IBPA members, our board, staff, and our volunteers. In the first volume of Writers of the Future, Mr. Hubbard wrote, "The artist injects the spirit of life into a culture. What began as a single idea has grown into a global community, and that champions new voices, bold ideas, and the enduring power of storytelling." The plaque I'm presenting today reads in part, "For over 40 years, the Writers and Illustrators of the Future contest has launched over 1,000 new voices, standing as the longest-running speculative fiction contest of its kind and shaping the next generation of storytellers and visionaries. This spirit of access, innovation, and creative independence reflects the mission of the Independent Book Publishers Association: to empower writers and creators to bring forth diverse voices, shape culture, and build the future of publishing. So, it is my pleasure to present the plaque to the founder of the Writers and Illustrators of the Future contest, Mr. L. Ron Hubbard.
Please welcome Writers of the Future Judge Larry Niven and Illustrators of the Future Judge B. Jackson.
Writer winner Michael T. Kuister is an engineer by day and science fiction writer by night. He wrote the story In Living Color, where a man who can step into pictures uses his gift to solve crimes, balancing horror-filled photos with sanctuary inside Monet's water lilies until one investigation turns personal.
The illustrator for this story, Nathan Dywert, grew up in Greensburg, Indiana. He creates imaginative creatures and characters that coexist with one another. His work ranges from traditional oil paints to modern digital. He loves teaching and would like to be a full-time professor along with his art career. Please welcome them both to the stage.
Hello, I'm Mike, and I write science fiction. When Joni called me and told me that I was a finalist, she asked a routine question. What was it like to write this story? I couldn't give her a routine answer. I told her the truth. This story ruined a week of my life. It tore me apart. I was miserable. I was withdrawn. I was grumpy. I started having nightmares. Something I created gave me nightmares. But looking back at it now, I should have known right at that moment that this was something that was going to happen, because those are the stories that need to be told. Those are the stories that go somewhere, the stories that you write that tear you apart, that make you feel something. Because as I've said a lot over this past week, I have found over the years that you have to write what you love and what you care about and what you feel. You can't just force yourself to write something. If you write something that you don't want to write, it will read like it was written at gunpoint. So I wrote this story, and I honestly didn't really like it that much afterwards because of the feelings that I had that I associated with it. But everyone I knew who read it said the same thing. This is the best thing you've ever written. I didn't agree with them. I'm here now. What do I know? Now then, they say it takes a village to write a story, and I have a whole city to thank. I'd like to start out, obviously, with L. Ron Hubbard, whose posthumous generosity made this entire thing possible. Obviously, I would like to thank, moving on from there, all the wonderful folks at Author Services and Galaxy Press who have continued his work and who have spent this past week very patiently making all of us feel like royalty. And for a modern writer, that's very rare. I would also like to, getting more personal, I would like to thank my critique group, Book Beta and Beyond. They're wonderful people, so that's Alicia, Saren, Mark, Gemma, and Mel. They've been incredibly supportive for me, and also it turns out that they're excellent proofreaders. Let's see. I would like to thank my friend Sarah, who is my top beta writer, my biggest fan. I would like to thank my loving and supportive partner, who unfortunately could not be here tonight. I would like to thank my beta group, many of whom actually read this story, and they were the ones who kept on telling me, no, this is going to do it, it's going to win. And lastly, because I always end like this, I would like to thank my mother, who always believed that I could do something like this, but refused to read this story because it was too scary. Thank you very much.
As some of you come to learn, I'm a bit of a talker, so I'll try not to keep this too long. As a fantasy illustrator, the work of illustrators Bob Eggleton and Frank Frazetta changed my life forever. I grew up seeing Bob's Godzilla art, and that had forever been an inspiration of mine. And then I discovered Frank Frazetta's strong and powerful warriors and was forever inspired. As an educator, I am a true believer in the idea of paying it forward, or as I like to call it, passing the torch. This is something I very much impress upon to my students. And L. Ron Hubbard posthumously really passed the torch on to the next generation. The same can be said for all of the judges whose art I've looked up to and books I've read, and all the past winners who I look up to as well. You all pass the torch all the same. Additionally, I want to give thanks to all of the fellow winners that I am here with today. This has become a new family that I get to be a part of, and I'm forever grateful. Author Services, you guys have done a fantastic job putting everything together, from convincing me to put away my fears and enter the contest, and running this fantastic workshop that has me more motivated than ever. Additionally, there is Galaxy Press. You guys did a fantastic job putting together Volume 42 of Writers of the Future, and I am so amazed to be a part of it. Michael, Your story had me on the edge of my seat and brought me to tears by the end. I knew reading this story that I had to paint it in oils, and so I did. And additionally, I'm so grateful to have someone who can be a new friend that we can hang out every now and again. Finally, there's everyone back home in Indiana. I'd like to start with my students. Seeing you all work so hard and working on your final projects and helping each other out while I'm gone is truly inspiring, and I'm so proud of all of you. My father, Donald. Growing up watching him draw set me on my path. You know, he taught me how to start learning how to draw Superman and Godzilla, and everything lifted off from there, up, and away. To my mother, Kristen, and my stepfather, Jack. You guys have been some of my biggest supporters over the last few years, and I don't think I could be here without your support. My older brother, Dakota. We used to fight like dogs, but you have become one of my best friends. You've seen me at my highest points and my lowest points, and you stayed by my side all the way. And lastly, my girlfriend, Kim, taking care of my cat right now. You are one of the best parts of my life, and you make me want to be better and strive to be better every single day. I love you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Please welcome Writers of the Future first reader Carrie English and Grammy Award-winning Golden Voice actor and producer for Writers of the Future Volume 42, Stefan Rudnicki.
Writer-winner Mark McWaters has long been a fan of things that go bump in the night, scratch at the door, and blow cold air on the back of your neck. So it is no surprise that he wrote the story Ghost Dog. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. When an unseen creature stalks his home, a man must protect his small dog from a supernatural predator determined to force its way inside and claim a living host.
The illustrator for Ghost Dog is Anna Malone from Southeast Missouri. Her art combines expressive figurative techniques with atmospheric environments. She is currently studying for her Bachelor of Fine Arts at the Columbus College of Art and Design, where she is doing her finals and therefore not able to be with us tonight. But we will still celebrate her fantastic illustration for Volume 42. Please welcome Mark to the stage.
had a friend who won the Illustrator Award a couple years ago. So I said, what is this really about? Like, is this? He said, man, this is a once-in-a-lifetime event. Just go, enjoy, take in everything you can. Once in a lifetime. I thought, well, that's too bad, because I could get used to this. But I digress. I need to thank some folks. First one I want to thank is Frances. She is the first to read my stuff. She reads it all, and she has the courage to show me all the spots that I need to fix. And she's sitting right over there, so mostly she's correct. I fixed them. We've been learning about how amazing L. Ron Hubbard is, has been, was, and that's true. The man was very amazing, but for a very personal reason for me, because somehow that guy knew what I was going to need decades before I was even born. Then I'm going to go get a little more personal. I want to thank my parents. My dad first. He went out and he bought the entire set of Encyclopedia Britannicas for a 10-year-old little boy who was one of those nagging, bratty, hey, why is this? What's that? And all he would say is, well, son, let's go to the book. And we would go and we'd find out the answer. My mom, she actually read to me at night. She said that Black Beauty was the one she really hated the most because I never wanted her to leave. I wanted her to keep reading. She also read poetry to me. I was a kid. She read me Kipling. I learned to love Gunga Din when I was maybe 11 or 12. That was a gift, and it kept paying off for me. And I want to say, ultimately, this writing gig is kind of scary. It's lonely. You put stuff out there, you got no idea, because you never hear back. And then one day your whole world turns around because you get a phone call. I got that phone call, and I didn't answer it. Because I don't answer numbers that I don't know, right? It said Los Angeles. I'm in Florida. I live in Florida. So I thought, LA? Nah. Then that same number called me again, and it actually left me a voicemail. And so I went and I listened to it. And it was Joni, and she said, Mark, it's good news. Call me. So I did. The last person I really want to thank is not really a person at all. It's Bentley. Bentley, yes, is the star of my story. And it began one night, one very dark and lonely night, and I shot straight up, awakened by a little dog on the edge of my bed, and he was barking his fool head off, and his little tail was vibrating, and then I heard the noise, and it was something in the wall, scratching in the walls, and he took off like a shot and ran through the house. That is all true. And that bolted me right up out of the bed sheets. And thanks to my little Bentley, that story got written. So we're coming home to see you, buddy. It's just going to be a couple days. Thank you so much.
Please welcome Writers of the Future Judge S.M. Sterling and Illustrators of the Future Judge Laura Fries-Baraha.
Writer-winner Joseph Sidari is a practicing physician from Boston, Massachusetts, who wrote the story A Girl and Her Dragon, A Life in 4 Parts, where across decades, a girl grows into a journalist activist, and outlaw with a lifelong devotion to return a captive dragon to the sky. Written in an epistolary way, the story unfolds through a series of emails, posts, and letters with no lack of emotion and suspense.
The illustrator of this story, Josie Moore, has always been seen with a sketchbook by her side. Like author Joseph Sidari, she is also from Massachusetts, currently attending the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, in pursuit of a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in illustration. She uses her art as a vehicle to process her emotions, to communicate, and to turn her apprehensions into things of beauty. Please welcome to the stage Joseph Sidari and Josie Moore.
Well, for those of you keeping score, this is the last group. So there'll be fun stuff afterwards, too. Some people say that writing is a solitary adventure. I say they're wrong. I may do the typing myself, but I've never written alone. My deepest thanks go to my wife, Karen, whose love and support are behind every page. She's not here with us tonight, but she's always right here. I'd also like to thank my sons, John, Peter, and Will, my daughter-in-law, Emily, my mom and dad, my family, friends, fellow writers. Without all of you, I wouldn't be here today. I'd also like to thank the staff at ASI for making this week magical. I'd like to thank the team of journalists and videographers who believed in me that taking my luggage off the carousel would be interesting. We'll have to see about that. Thank you to Tim and Jody Lynn and all the other wonderful judges for the generosity of their time and talent. They taught me so much this week. Thanks to Mr. Hubbard for bringing this contest to life. Thanks to Josie Moore for seeing the magic and beauty and love in my story and putting it on the page. I couldn't have imagined a more beautiful illustration for my story. And thanks to my fellow writers who I've met this week. Getting to know all of you has made me a better writer. I hope I've done the same for you. My story, as you heard, is about a little girl who never gives up her belief in the magic in the world and wants to free a dragon from the Bronx Zoo. My own story is hardly that dramatic. I did write when I was in high school, but being a medical student and a surgical resident, somehow I didn't have enough time anymore. I think I was soft. Then, as a young physician with a growing family, I still didn't have time, but eventually I did find the time and started writing. I'd send pages of my latest novel to my parents who thought it was the most brilliant thing they'd ever read. What else is a parent going to say? As I tried to get my novels published, my dad, who passed away 6 years ago, actually almost to the day today, actually offered to pay to have my book printed and give as a gift to me. I said, no, I want to do this on my own. Well, Dad, I did.
Thank you.
Oh boy, is it my turn? Well, as I've been said, better late than never. So, we've all heard dozens of people talk today, right? So I'm not sure what I could bring to the table that could be any stronger than the dozens of writers we've seen. So I'm going to keep it short. Mom, Dad, I did it. I'd like to thank Joe for such an emotional story, for such a story that was so deeply ingrained in the essence of who I am that it had me crying in my dorm room at 4 a.m. Though that could have also been because I opened it and I saw a written scrapbook and I had myself wondering, how the heck am I going to pull this off? I'd like to thank the judges who saw something in my work that sometimes I struggle to see and gave me some some of the most incredible advice about art that I have ever received, including but not limited to Rod Pryor, who very helpfully told me, you need to get better at talking to people. To which, as an artist, I am well aware, but I didn't need to hear it out loud. But anyway, last but not least, I'd like to thank Austin. I know you're watching this, man. Thanks for seeing something in that stupid brain of mine. I wouldn't be here without you. That's all. Thank you.
To introduce the Writers and Illustrators of the Future Golden Pen and Golden Brush Awards for Volume 42, please welcome the contest director, Ms. Joni Labaki.
Each year, the winners of the Writers and Illustrators of the Future contest discover new voices and new visions. Tonight, we arrive at the moment when two of those creators are recognized in a special way. I first would like to say that all the writers and illustrators you heard from tonight are winners. Their stories and art rose above thousands of entries internationally. It has been my honor working with each one of you this past year. But from this year's winners, our judges have selected the recipients of our grand prizes: the Golden Brush Award for the Grand Prize Illustrator and the Golden Pen Award for the Grand Prize Writer. In addition to this recognition, each grand prize winner receives a cash award of $5,000. And now, we come to the final presentation of our grand prizes. To present this year's Grand Prize Illustrator, please welcome Illustrators of the Future Coordinating Judge Echo Chernick and Jannica Mikkelsen.
I love this part. This is my favorite part. Each year, the illustrators in this contest bring imagination to life in unique ways and a tremendous amount of different styles. Their creativity and skill make choosing a single grand prize winner a real challenge for our judges. It has been a pleasure working with all of you, and I have no doubt that many exciting careers begin right here. But tonight, one artist's work rose to the top.
I've had the chance to see the incredible artwork created by this year's illustrators. And it's easy to imagine any one of them standing here as a grand prize winner. And now, let me open the envelope. Oh,
so much glue. Just ripped into it. Show it who's boss.
And the Volume 42 Illustrators of the Future Golden Brush Award with this beautiful trophy and the grand prize. It's a check of $5,000. Goes to the illustrator of
Saffron and Marigolds, Bapu.
Okay, this is insane. So, we were told the second speeches were worse than the first ones because people don't expect to give those. They're always so surprised to win, and I'm sorry to be one of them because I just written one thing, and it was, in case you win, you should quickly grab the award and run. Before judges can change their mind. Yeah, so I don't know what much else to say. I'm just so grateful to every one of you for giving me this chance, for giving me spotlight, for believing in me and seeing something in me that I haven't seen before. I'm so grateful to the judges for their kind words and everything they did for me during this week. It was truly a life-changing experience, and I took notes almost of everything they said all the time. And I'm so thankful to my friends, to friends I made there, the other illustrators. They were one of the nicest people, and I was so scared to come here, and I just fitted with them, and they welcomed me. So I'm so grateful, and I promise that I will keep on doing the best job I can do, giving the hard work to my works, and I swear that this is the last time that I downgraded myself, and thank you so much.
bag is so heavy, I don't know how I'm going to fit it in my suitcase. Thanks again.
To present the Writers of the Future Volume 42 Golden Pen Award, please welcome the Writers of the Future coordinating judge as well as editor for the anthology, Jody Lynn Nye and Andrea Fleck Nesbitt.
Serving as coordinating judge for the Writers of the Future contest continues to be an incredible privilege. Each year, we read thousands of imaginative and original stories from writers around the world. The creativity, passion, and range of ideas that arrive each quarter never fail to inspire us. Selecting the winners is never easy, and the finalists you see here tonight represent truly outstanding work. Together with my fellow judges, I had the pleasure of reviewing these stories and helping choose this year's winners. But among this group, one writer's story rose to the top.
And now, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. I heard it was a close race for the top spot. The Volume 42 Writers of the Future Golden Pen Award, along with the grand prize check of $5,000, goes to the writer of the story,
In
living color, Michael J. Castor.
So our fantastic illustrator winner just mentioned something that, yes, like most people, so it turns out, don't plan much for their second speech because they don't think they're going to win. So I had brief notes on who I want to thank in my initial speech, on like what I want to touch on, talking about the writing of the story and everything. My notes for this speech were exactly one sentence long, and it just said, "Don't be a yutz." I'm not making any guarantees. However, I said in the first speech that it takes a village to write a story, and I had a city to thank. And to be fair, I didn't thank that city. In 2003, at 18, I shook off the dust of my one-horse town and left to see the world. And that trip took me about 5 hours driving down I-71 to the city of Cincinnati, Ohio. That city has since then been my home for the majority of my life. It has seen the greatest and some of the worst moments of my life. But over the course of all that time, it has given me more than it could possibly take. Cincinnati is a place where ordinary people do extraordinary things every single day. And I say that as an ordinary person who has apparently just done something extraordinary. All right. So, to the people of Cincinnati, to all the wonderful friends and loved ones who are there now, who I know are watching me at the moment, just understand, I know it seems sometimes like that city does not get enough respect, that it does not get enough attention. I see you, and right now, the entire world sees you. So, with that said, I'd also like to thank the one person I forgot to thank earlier, which was, of course, my amazing illustrator, Nathan, who did such a fantastic job capturing the essence of this story, which was about as grim and powerful and gripping as anything could be. When I saw his image, I literally gasped. And I have a feeling that everyone who reads the story will do the exact same thing as soon as they see that picture. So with all of that said, thank you again so much. Good night, Cincinnati. Thank you all.
This brings us to the close of the 2026 L. Ron Hubbard Achievement Awards and our celebration of imagination. Tonight we encountered worlds where a man can step into pictures to solve crimes, a dragon develops a surprising fondness for cheese, and a time agent who must stage the asteroid strike that ended the age of dinosaurs. Wild ideas, impossible ideas, all born from imagination by creative minds sitting right here in this room who dare to ask, what if? L. Ron Hubbard said that one's ability to imagine is directly proportional to one's ability to be successful. Tonight you have proven your ability to imagine, and now you have the opportunity to be successful. Congratulations to all of you. And to the writers and artists still out there dreaming up their first or next story or illustration to submit, we look forward to seeing what you imagine. Please join us now in the beautiful Taglian complex at the end of the universe as we continue celebrating with our winners and our distinguished judges. From all of us at Author Services and Galaxy Press, thank you for being with us tonight. We look forward to seeing you next year for the 43rd anniversary of the Writers and Illustrators of the Future contest. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.